Hey, and welcome to Beer Guru Australia Podcast, Season 1, Episode 5. I'm your host, Danny Elliott, aka The Wolfman, recorded right here at Valley Sound Studios, Belconnen, Canberra, Australia. On this episode, our special guest is smashing the world in beauty, fitness, and recently added a clothing brand to her amazing business lineup. The one, the only, Bianca Bogdanovic. We go through Bianca's journey, starting out with school days, up to owning and running 3 separate businesses. Although we have had hard times recently, this super impressive individual is a female powerhouse. Get a grip as we get a full inside perspective of what it's like to go from uninterested student at school to multiple business operator, which I'm sure many of your viewers and listeners have either tried or wanted or even done a successful business in fitness, beauty, or clothing. Let's go.
Am I doing that?
No. Welcome to Beer Guru Australia Podcast, Season 1, Episode 5. We have with us lovely guest, Bianca. Welcome.
Hello.
Okay, so getting straight into it, your sort of field is you've got 3 main things that you kind of do as a professional business.
Yep.
I'm sure you do other things as well, but in this episode, we're mainly going to focus on fitness and nutrition. But your 3 main things that you do is a fitness instructor, a hairdresser,
Yep.
and you have your own clothing brand.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so can you please go all the way back as far as you can and bring us through your whole sort of early process, even upbringing, to sort of why you kind of ventured toward these sort of things in your life?
Yeah, for sure. So I think from a very young age, I had quite a strong work ethic. I don't exactly know where that came from. I feel like I did have very hardworking parents, you know, working paycheck to paycheck, making sure, they had a roof over our heads and food on the table sort of thing. But I started working quite young. I don't know where that work ethic came from. I just knew I wanted to work quite young. I was eager. And
is that so? When you say quite young, what age were you talking?
I started my first job at 13.
Really?
In a cafe in my hometown, Maruya. Yeah.
So for viewers and listeners, Maruya is where?
On the south coast.
South coast of Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. Little coastal town. Not much there, but so I started at 13. I had just started high school, and it was quite close to my school, so I would walk there after school hours, do my couple of hours of work, and then head home. I think I got into about year 9, and I became that little year 9 rebel at school. I wasn't a very good student.
Did you just get sick of the mundane of school?
Yeah, I think this is also where the whole be your own boss thing came about. If I didn't have an interest in a subject, teachers had a really hard time teaching me or getting me to concentrate, getting me to be present in class. I would be destructive. I would talk to my friends, sit on my phone. All I could think about was heading to the beach or going to the next party.
So you just lost interest?
Yeah, unless it was, for example, art. I loved art, so I excelled in my art class.
Did you find, for me, I was similar, but I wasn't so much of a rebel at school, more out of school. Lost interest in a lot of things because I found it very difficult, but also for maths and English and stuff. But I had no interest in why I would be using this in my life. I know you do.
Exactly.
I'm a tradesman. I use maths like insane, and I built that skill from.
But do you use tan and sun?
No.
Yeah.
I do use algebra. I do use
those weird things that you learn.
I do use Pythagoras theorem.
Yeah.
A lot,
okay. Cool.
Which a lot of people, like my parents, said, "Oh, I never use this. Don't learn it." I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
But the whole fact of that, I didn't see at that age, what I was putting it for.
Yeah, I didn't see a purpose.
No, guitar.
Yeah.
I love guitar. I wanted to play guitar and stuff, and they didn't teach much about how the guitar was built and stuff. Now I build guitars. Later I found out that you can build them.
Yeah.
They're not just a thing that just pops up through they are, but a lot of people, how they started, and a lot of companies still hand build them. So why didn't they teach me that maths is great for building guitars.
Yeah.
I even got in trouble at school drawing the math things, working out on the math pages how a guitar that I was thinking about making was like, you know, on there, and I got in trouble for it. But I was actually doing maths, but in my own way.
Yeah.
So did you find that in other subjects you were bringing in your likes and stuff and they were like not essentially part of the curriculum? So
They absolutely were not.
Yeah.
And I didn't do well in those classes purely because, I didn't see the purpose in them.
Yeah.
So I would either not go
or just zone out in class.
Or if I was in class, I would be so disruptive where I'd end up in detention. And I was,
She's lovely, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. My teachers didn't think so.
No.
I was a really shit kid.
Problem child?
My mum would say the same thing. I was an angel when my dad would be around. So he thinks I'm an angel. But, if you would ask my mum, she'd say I was a hard kid, a hard teen. I had my own thing going on and no one could really get me out of it. So that's when I started my first, you could say, like proper career. I was in year 9 and I had a meeting with my principal because I just wasn't coming to classes. I would just wag them. And he said to me, look, you're a bright kid. If you want to stick around and if you want to eventually get year 12, I think the best way to go about it is do what was called back then a TVET course, which was a weird name for an ASBA.
I remember that. They changed it to ASBA.
Yeah. So they said, if you do an ASBA, you'll be able to come to school 2 days a week, do that 2 days a week, and it should hopefully give you some balance and you'll actually enjoy doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And back then I was like, oh, yeah, sounds so cool. 2 days off school. I'll get to go to a big person place. And, I was like, this is so cool.
Is that what you felt as well at school? It sounds like a lot of people that are rebellious at school, you just want to get out in the world.
Yeah. I wanted to be grown up. Yeah. I was like, I hate being a kid. Now I'm like, I wish I could go back to being a kid some days. But
yeah. I think everyone crosses that point. Like I loved being out and working and stuff when I was like 17, 18, 19.
I liked being taken seriously, I think. Even though I was young, and when you're young, you're not really taken seriously.
But I think like everyone crosses over a point where you just, and now every single time someone mentions school or like, I had to go to, like if I had some younger sort of 18, 19-year-olds work here and stuff at the studio helping out, and they mention how hard school is and stuff. I was like, what? Like
you have
no idea.
Else coming. So, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. What am I going to do? So I was researching what I would do as my TVET course. And at the time I had a hairdresser in the family, my older cousin. She's about 10 years older than me. And when you're a young girl and you have it's like an older sister or an older cousin, you do look up to them. You're like, oh, she's so cool. She was their hairdresser and she would do my hair every now and then. And that's how I fell into the hairdressing. I was like, okay, cool. Well, this is a course I can do at TAFE. I'm quite a creative person. I enjoyed playing with hair, like all my friends. I would do my friends' hair and stuff like that. So I definitely knew it would be something I was interested in. So I went with that. And that was my first kind of introduction to proper work world. Like, I had to commit to my 2 days a week, otherwise I'd be kicked out. Yeah.
So that's essentially keeping because does it do something? Well, back then, did it do anything toward your grades? Did you get graded on it or not really?
The TVET course was like its own subject, so I got graded on that. Yeah, and then I could do the subjects I enjoyed doing. So art, I had to do English, but that's okay. And I found that balance worked so much better for me because I was doing something I was genuinely interested in. Yeah. I also got to work in a hair salon once a week as well because you had to work within the workplace as well. So it was just completely different to your traditional school life. I feel like I had this whole separate life outside of school, which I really enjoyed. And
did you stop being so rebellious? Nope.
Not then. As I got more mature in my years, I would say I did. I I'd say when I was moving into college, I moved up to Canberra. So when I started year 11 and 12, that's when I kind of moved out of my rebellion of going out, drinking, doing all the silly things. I think it's because I was the new kid. I had no friends up here. I just could focus on my work and my study. So hairdressing was, the first thing I rolled into. I completed my apprenticeship by the time I had finished college. So I left college with my year 12 certificate and apprenticeship, which was pretty cool. I could go straight into full-time work.
Double qualified.
Point. Yeah, I could go straight into work, and that was pretty cool because I could have a full-time income as I think you're 18 when you finish college. So I was having money come in at that age where I could kind of
just a question on that. Yeah. So I'm just relating to this because I did a very similar thing. I got to college and went through it as fast as I could to get out and get qualified because I thought it was a smart thing to do just in case I wanted to go to uni. Exactly. I had no intention to go to uni, but just in case, even though you can do mature age and stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, I definitely was driven to work. I didn't necessarily want to do trade stuff, but I just knew that there was availability there and it was easy access through one of my dad's customers or something. I was like, do you want to do this? I was like, yeah, cool, I'll do landscaping. Thank God I don't do that anymore. Yeah. But the whole thing was I was driven for music. I wanted to go to festivals and do guitar, and music and stuff. So the whole aspect of getting money to do these things was more appealing than going to get more education. So for you at that whole building the skill set and getting an apprenticeship stuff, what was your drive to want to work and get into the real world? Because that was my drive, was just basically get guitars, which I did get like within 6 months of working. And I really wanted to go to Splendour in the Grass, which was a big festival in Australia for people that don't live in Australia. And it was my one thing. And then after that, I got hooked that I could get money to go to more music things and get more music things. And that was my only drive, basically. Yeah,
my only drive back then was riches. At that age, I didn't have a lot of know-how. I just knew for some particular reason I wanted to make money and I wanted financial freedom.
Was there anyone that you looked up to for that reason?
Zero.
Like, or you just made a decision?
Yeah, and that's why I still to this day, like I always kind of think about like why and how. Like someone in my past life or something must have been pretty like switched on in that term, because no one in my family ran business. No one was doing crazy things, you could say. Like my mum had a day job, my dad had a day job. They were working just, again, to make sure we had a roof over our head and food on the table. They were working really hard for that sort of thing.
So no one was really extra?
No, like no one was.
Do they have any skills or hobbies that are far out, like creative?
Yeah, both my parents are very creative, both very musical.
Right.
And both artists, so very good at drawing. So they definitely have the creative aspect. They didn't do anything with it in terms of like
wanting to turn it into a business.
No, they didn't have any business.
Here's a good question. Yeah. So in saying that, I relate to that, and I'm sure a lot of other people do that are creative, but my family isn't not creative, but in the sense of like the creative arts, essentially, there's no one that is directly in that other than me and my direct family. So I felt like the black sheep, and I'm sure with your business side of things, like my dad ran a business for years and years, for like 30 years he's been running a business. So for that side of things, do you feel like you're a bit of a black sheep with your business stuff, that you just ventured out in a different lane?
I think I'm a black sheep in terms of my motivation. My parents seemed like their motivation came from just the enjoyment and passion of doing music,
so hobby,
drawing. Whereas my motivation was make money, do something great, become this person that people will talk about.
So with a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, they utilize, not every single one, but they utilize a skill set that is enjoyable for them. Because if you, like we said before we started the video, you said that you really hone into things that you like doing.
Yes.
So, and you kind of use that as a catalyst to get better because you already naturally are good at it and like doing it. So you utilize that into making money.
Yeah. Well, what's the saying? Hard work beats talent, whereas if you're talented and work as like hard, you double turn it. I forget the saying.
No. So, yeah, Eric Thomas is a big one that says stuff. I don't know if you know him. He has this big thing which he was literally living in a dumpster.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like a multimillionaire now.
Yeah,
He's had a few different problems and stuff like that throughout, but he is like big energy because he's like, I come from nothing. Like I was eating food out of a dumpster, living in a dumpster and just turned my life around just from hard work. And he's like, you will not outwork me. You will never outwork me. Like if the most talented person in the room, that's great. They can make money, right?
Yeah.
But if their talent isn't required in one aspect, they're stuffed.
Yeah. If you have the drive and the work ethic plus the talent, just keep going.
Yeah. Well,
Whereas if you just have the work ethic, you have to learn the talent, or you have to learn.
Anyone can learn the talent, right?
Yeah. So if you've already got it, I feel like you can just.
Not everyone can learn hard work.
Exactly.
They can't, because if you've been pampered until you're 35, how the hell are you going to lift and swing a hammer?
Yeah.
Or learn. Because, relate it to any of the things you're doing, especially like hairdressing, right? It's a acquired mindset to learn it.
Yes.
Like you have to be creative. Also, you're dealing with people that is there. It's attached to them. Mm-hmm. It's their creative as well that you have to like fulfill. Part of their personality that you have to fulfill. It's a very hard task.
Yeah.
And it's kind of looked past. Like I was just because there's so many hairdressers. They're like, it's just another hairdresser. It's like no. Yeah. Like you got to understand that the actual skill set to learn the basics is, not everyone can learn it.
No.
Because you have to be good with your hands,
It's crazy how many people go into an apprenticeship thinking hairdressing is going to be an easy career, and they get a rude shock and then they leave.
Yeah, how I'm like, okay, so it's pretty bad when, I actually I think I've just got a very good, like hand and body control. So I didn't actually stuff up very much, even in my apprenticeship, like a little bit here and there. But seeing people stuff up trade stuff and go, oh my God, this person's broke this piece of glass, you can replace the glass.
Yes.
For someone to do a extremely bad haircut, or especially like things like dyes where you can ruin people's hair and bleach and stuff like that.
It's mentally scarring.
Yeah.
Yeah. For both the stylist and the client.
Yeah. Which is like, it's some stuff is irreversible for years.
Yes. Yes.
So coming through, and then so you found this thing that you like doing, and you were successful in it, obviously, because you finished your apprenticeship. You stuck it out, and you weren't obviously. What's the words to say? You weren't highly favourable of education, right? But you still stuck to something.
I wouldn't say I wasn't favourable of education. I would say I was favourable of the education I enjoyed. If I enjoyed learning about it, I would read books on it for days.
Okay.
If I had zero interest in it, I couldn't give I couldn't care.
Yeah. Well, so you obviously were very interested in hairdressing, right? And then you went through that process, and then you finished your apprenticeship, and then you've obviously started a business at some point. What point at this sort of start a business, how long were you doing actual cutting hair and working stuff till you starting it? But also, what was the sort of initial go, I'm going to do my business? Yeah. Obviously, you had the drive and the want and stuff, and you wanted to do it, but what was that thing that kind of...
I have it stuck in my brain. I did. So when I was still at school, before I was even in college, one of my classes I chose to do on top of my apprenticeship was business studies. And I was already drawing up my hairdressing salon business plan before I qualified.
I did business studies at college, and to be honest, I don't use any of it.
I told my boss, which I don't know if she liked very much, when I was doing my apprenticeship, that I was going to open my own hair salon.
Really?
Yeah.
See, obviously it screams, but it might not be. It screams insecurity for people like that. So I always encourage people. So there's been people that work with us. I won't say their names because they might not be wanting to mention, haven't asked. But there's one particular guy, and he's phenomenal at certain things that I wish I was already, and he's like 20 or something. I'm like, how do you, and it's just because he's got the knack for this thing, right? And I always encourage when he was working here, so I was like, you got to think about starting your own business. And he's like, what? I was like, even if you don't, you will learn so much better. You'll gain so much more interest in what you are doing. If you envision, what does it take to do this? Yeah. Then you'll engulf in the whole thing.
If you've already had a vision of it, it's so much easier to then do it. I feel like I've always had a vision.
You definitely have, because you've gone into apprenticeship and then done business studies and stuff. But we'll go back with you working at this place and talking to that boss at that time. So you just mentioned it, or you talked about it all the time?
Not all the time. It was more so in a meeting, like you have your meetings with your bosses and they're like, what's your 5-year plan? They obviously want to keep you and retain you.
Yeah.
And I was just an honest person. I had this solid goal of, I went over my own hair salon one day. I'm really excited about this. Like, I'm going to learn as much as I can in terms of hairdressing, but also you as a business person and a leader. She seemed pretty okay with that. She's like, yeah, that's cool. Being a business person myself, I love teaching, and I'm hoping that she was in that mindset as well, because, I talked openly about it all the time. I knew I wanted to do it. I had a business name. It was called Natural Beauty. I had a business plan again before I left college. I knew what I wanted.
Did you talk about it with the clients in the business as well?
No, I wasn't allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, only to
I was just thinking, I was like, oh, that would kind of make sense for them to be upset about that.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, like I would...
Conflict of interest.
Well, I don't see that as much. If they have their own business and they're taking people away, that's definitely unless there's a growth for... I guess that's a little bit different. I think mainly just for this music and production business. I guess like people always, if they go do their own business, they're going to utilize this place because it's a hub. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing other businesses here. It's not just a one only business. It's bringing people here. So I think about things a little bit differently than standard business practice. But still, like, I just think you should encourage people to do their own thing because if they have that mindset, they'll be the best worker that they can be.
Oh, absolutely. I think business owners should be building other business owners or leaders.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't think many do, but good ones will. So
I think like it is a scary thought to train someone and have them kind of just disappear at one point if you're putting so much effort into. But at the same time...
There's so many outlets now though, and I feel like if you respect the employee and encourage them, they're more likely to want to stay and work for you.
Yeah.
In terms of like helping you build the business as well, rather than just going off on their own.
Well, I think there's a thing with like my dad. He's run his business for like 30 years, and he found almost like an accomplice other person that was doing the similar thing. So then when he went on holidays, he would palm the stuff to him. When that guy went on holidays, he would palm the stuff to... So that's the thing about when you're starting your apprenticeship and stuff, the business owner should be like, well, this person can be like that.
Yes.
You can build a business relationship, which is very, very healthy. But I do know, and this is outside of perspective, I do know that hairdressing and beauty, but hairdressing can be very bitchy.
Oh, yeah. I've worked in a number of salons and I can tell you that is 100% accurate.
But like salon to salon, like, like there, over there.
Not only salon to salon, but within salons.
Yeah, within salons.
It can be really toxic.
Yeah. We won't go into much of that now.
No. And also I just wanted to note, I think this maybe would have been another driving factor for me in terms of business, is I was 15 when I was talking to my boss about wanting to open my own business. She didn't take me seriously. And I didn't like being not taken seriously, but I would use that energy and I would have it like built up in me. And I'm going to show you one day.
Good.
Yeah.
So there's a thing which is a borderline of spite, but it's not spite, which is a very healthy driving factor for a lot of business startups. And it's not so much that you're going to knock them down to build yourself up. It's the fact that, what's the word? There's a saying where it's like, I've got a lot of people to prove wrong.
Yeah, I don't know the exact saying. I know exactly what you're meaning, but
it's not out of spite.
No.
It's not to put them out of their place. It's to show, like, it's to earn respect in the essentially peers that you value some of their view.
Yeah.
Like there's some people that you hate that you kind of want to prove wrong. There's some people that you really like and there's some people you love.
It's like kill them with kindness.
Yeah. Oh, that saying has been coming around a lot. And I'm actually, I've dealt with situations recently in business where I used to be a bit more brash and a bit more front on. And I just go, okay, this person is being really interestingly annoying, but it's maybe not their drive. Just, I don't know this person, but you know what? I'm going to give them more.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
They come back and they go, this is a great business. And then they change their tune. Because I think everyone's experience is different, but I believe that these people who are, they come across negative. I think they're being treated negative, like basically everywhere, and they're just giving up and being positive straight away because usually it reverts to negativity. But if they get a really positive response straight away and consistent positivity, I think they turn the other way.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but at the moment it's been happening really, really, really good for me. Just negative people just killing with the kindness, and they become either neutral or very positive to me.
That's it. Yeah.
So going through this, that's interesting to be 15 and be like so set on this thing, right? You sound like Richard Branson.
I was very set from a young age. Yeah. I'll probably dive in a little bit deeper later, but a couple of my girlfriends through college can vouch for me. I told them exactly what I was going to do, and here I am.
So you just had this aura around you of I'm going to kick ass.
Yeah.
I'm just going to absolutely annihilate the world with my awesomeness.
When you're in college, you're 16, 17.
Yeah.
I told my girlfriends I was going to own a hair salon, own a gym, and own a coffee shop, which hasn't happened, but it's probably in the works.
Cool. Was there a moment where you realised that I definitely am going to start this business? Because you've obviously started it and been doing other businesses. Was there a moment, or was there a certain person that said something, or what was the moment that you were in your brain and actively went, I'm going to do this?
So when I qualified from hairdressing, I went off to another salon to manage it because I wanted experience. I didn't want to just go straight into my own business with no know-how of running a hair salon.
Was that part of your original plan at college?
I've always wanted to be smart in every move I make. I don't just go, so I'm going to do it and go straight into it. I have a very solid plan generally of what I'm going to do. So I knew once I was qualified, I wanted to manage a hair salon and learn everything I could from the back end before I went off and did my own.
Yeah.
Every single job I've had, I've used as research. I would learn everything I could. And I think that helped me a lot because I didn't have help. I didn't have help financially. I didn't have help from uni, business school. I didn't go to business school. I did business classes in my year 10, which were very, very basic. I just wanted to go out and learn as much as I could beforehand. So I was like, if I go into a management position, which I luckily got. And
did you ask the current place and she denied?
Yeah, she actually had a manager role pop up and I applied straight away. And I think because I was young and not her first choice, because other girls in the salon applied too, I got denied and then I left straight away for another management role. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because it wasn't in line with what I wanted to continue to do in terms of my growth. Because she wasn't offering me that management role, I felt like I had hit a wall.
Yeah.
I was qualified. I'm going to either stay in this salon and just become an everyday hairdresser.
Well, the writing was on the wall, is the saying.
Or
I'm not going to go anywhere from this position.
Or I find
some people are happy with that. Some people are happy just sitting in a position and just coasting along. I don't think you would ever be happy with that.
No, and I feel like that's where people actually do get stuck. They're happy for a while until it becomes so boring and they're so bored with their life after doing it for 10 years or so.
There's a saying that I heard the other day, and I feel that this is 100% the way my brain works is, and people say anger, you shouldn't be angry. I understand, you shouldn't be angry especially angry at the past and let that go and stuff. But angry that you're not doing something is actually a positive thing, because anger actually is creates adrenaline and stuff and makes you do decisions that you normally wouldn't do so much, because it gets rid of some logic and some risk.
Yes.
Right? So the saying is, what is it? It's it's not so much a saying, it's more so that people coast along and then they might hate going to the job, but it pays their bills and it makes them a little bit of money. So there's two positives there versus one negative. They hate their job. But what they don't realize in that hate their job is there is so much negativity around that because you're there a lot of the time and this, something like that. And then when something happens like, oh, sorry, your bills are this much now, so it's not actually, you're not making any extra money, then they'll do something.
Yep.
Multiple businesses and wanting to do that and everything. So you make sure that you've got security and flow still of one business.
Absolutely.
And then you work from the ground all the way up.
Yeah, again with the
second one simultaneously.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Just with the same structures I use to build something.
Right, so you have a structure. Yeah. So you could start another business educating business starters.
Could.
And you could
maybe it's in the works.
Definitely should be if it's not, because I'm going to start doing it with not so much business structure, but the structure a way that I do music, because there's a lot of people that I just come across and they've been doing it for longer than me and they don't know how to get from point A to point B like at all. They have a different method every single time. Like I understand it's creative, but to get any sort of product, which is sadly music has turned from a activity to a product, which at the same time it's a blessing and a curse. And what people don't understand is to get a product, you have to figure out, and it can change, but it has to change in a positive way, where people just do it this way and that way and they get stuck and they've only got 2 songs, but they've got like 100 in the bank. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think Pantera and like Iron Maiden and stuff have got so many albums? Because they found a method and they put out the product and they made money from it and could continue doing it.
It obviously takes time to find out that method, a lot of trial and error. But once you have it and it's successful, going with it is definitely the way to go.
But you have started like on your mission from a young age and actively started on your mission from a young age.
Doesn't necessarily mean you have to start from a young age. And again, I said in the beginning, I don't know where that particular work ethic came from. I must have had someone in my past life in terms of wanting to be this business person.
So there's nothing that you can think of that happened to you when you...
I think about it so often. Only thing I can generally think of as my driving factor is I wasn't a good student. I was bullied at school.
Rise against.
I was young. I'm a petite girl.
Did you
weak?
Essentially, the whole aspect of rise against, like something, is that that's a definitely.
I liked proving people wrong.
Yeah.
I did have a very solid anger in me from when I was bullied in school.
Well, so sounds like you have a very, very inner confidence in yourself.
Now, for sure.
Well, essentially there's different confidence. Like there's outward confidence and there's inward confidence. So you believe in yourself. And when you get bullied, that deteriorates to a certain point that if it subsides and you don't get angry, then it becomes a real bad mental problem. Like you will suffer mental things from bullying at any extent in life. It doesn't have to be a teenager.
Yeah.
But the whole aspect of you getting like angry at the situation and wanting to prove these people wrong
that's the only way I could, because I was back then, I was weak, I was small. I couldn't, if I was to fight someone, I would lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't have a way to fight back in any sense. My fight back was eventually showing them what I could eventually do. And that's also how my fitness journey became about. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be able to fight back.
Right. So you had an image of your, okay, so a lot of people like, I'm trying to think who.
There's so much information to condense.
Yeah. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of people that, especially fitness people that have that drive. They have that drive.
Yeah. And it also comes from performing fitness as well. Like people generally start their fitness journey in the same position, very low self-esteem, feeling weak, feeling lost, and then the health and fitness literally grows within them and it turns into that. And that's what it did for me, for sure.
Because I think like for me, fitness was I was always pretty sporty and fit and stuff, but I went through a period of abusing certain situations and things, unhealthy habits, essentially all around. As not everyone, but a lot of people in their early sort of adolescence, late adolescence, growing into the full real adult world, there's a lot of extra stresses that you didn't realize would happen, even though your parents and your teachers tell you.
Yeah.
and you hit a point and you go, some people do, some people don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. I think majority of people do.
I feel like most people do, and it's determining where their life ends up,
Yes.
where they take that avenue, whether they go down the route of kind of drug and alcohol abuse to kind of numb what's going on.
Yeah.
Career. Like there's so many avenues to take, obviously.
You can change this later in life, but it's harder to. So that's why, I think that's why the education system is trying to set people up to be highly educated and access to all these things and stuff. But for me, the way that a lot of Western education systems is just they have to learn from like a lot of European ways are a lot better. I think like giving into the creativity.
With a European background, maybe that's why I'm like the way I am.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's why I've got a beard. I've got like Viking or something in me. I don't know. The whole aspect of moving forward into, like I said, going back into a little bit of drive. Some people's stories are really interesting, and other people is just like yourself. Like I don't know. It's just a certain thing that's been built into me. There will be some sort of triggering points if you really go back to it, but sometimes it's not that. You're not that aware.
I feel like there'll always be trigger points. I haven't pinpointed mine as a young age. Like I can't think back to before school, like what triggered me. But high school was a massive turning point for me in terms of being bullied and not having confidence in myself.
What about your young heroes? And
I didn't have any young heroes.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a millionaire.
Yeah, well, there you go. So,
but I didn't have anyone to go off. I didn't look at anyone like, oh my God, look at that millionaire doing. I remember, it's so funny now because my vision and my goal is so different now. Like I'm not money driven now. But back then I would go to bed and my dream would be what I would do with my millions of dollars and how much freedom I would have and how no one could bully me because I would be doing my own thing. I wouldn't have to be nowhere near them. I could support my family. All these things I just could do with this financial freedom. And I just went to bed, I would say every night with that dream of just like, it would put me to sleep, just thinking about the financial freedom.
So essentially you wanted to better your situation and you knew at a young age that money was a tool to do that.
Yeah.
So that's a good driving factor because a lot of like I made sure the way some sort of relatability, how you're like you have a process and you do the same at the start is what I definitely do is I look and watch videos about sort of people that have, especially public speakers that are so like want to educate, what they did at the start and what to avoid and all that sort of stuff. And with starting different parts of aspects of my business growth, I look at that and I go, okay, so what can I change in my life that they said to veer away from or that you should adapt this and bring this in? So I start doing it and seeing how it works with me because sometimes it doesn't work with different personalities, doing different things, different ways of doing things. Yeah. It's just like really hard to do certain things. Like with me, maths is not my super strong point. I can do it, but to implement heaps of maths and finance and stuff, I do it because I have to, but to do it all the time, I don't do that. Yeah. And some people say do that all the time or find someone that can. Yes. So outsourcing.
Outsourcing is so important.
Definitely. So I think with like the whole aspect of you wanting to really change your life with finance, I was actually, when I first started business and stuff, and until sort of last year, I wasn't money driven whatsoever. I put that as, yes, it's a necessity and then it's the bloodline of a business, but I will always go for my passionate thinking rather than my straight line. Just that's how I'm built. But recently I only put money first because I was in a little bit of a trickier situation financially, of course, with everyone with the back end of the spicy cough period. But I could foresee the future being a little bit harder and harder and harder because I'm in construction in this financial situation of that was the backing of the creative business, which is now flourishing extremely well this year. But the change was that I focused on money because it wasn't happening as well as it should be. To look in a year's time, it's not going to be that great.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, I focus on money. So now I have this great balance. I can switch because I've never focused on money, but I had to be. That whole thing about if the problem's too big, then you will do something.
Yeah.
So I really think having money driven, it sounds like egotistic and like.
It definitely was in the beginning for me, I think.
Do you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. My goals and aspirations have changed so drastically as I've grown into who I am now.
Through experience? Through
experience, through my new philosophies and what I study. But back then when I was young, I think it was ego because, again, I wanted to prove people wrong. I was like, I want to beat this person. I want to, like in terms of like bullies or someone who said I couldn't do something, for example. A level of ego is like egoism for sure. And I think having a level of ego is important as long as it doesn't become destructive to yourself and others.
Yeah.
Because
it can get in the way of situations. It can.
I feel like ego in the beginning, that has now turned into solid self-confidence.
That's good. Yeah. That's healthy ego.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ego will always exist, but it's how much
percent
ego
of... can move into jealousy and all this stuff, or it can turn into this self-confidence of I'm really centered in myself and nothing anyone can kind of touch me anymore.
That's good.
Yeah.
So going forward into your studies,
yes,
and then you finished that, so you're very driven for that, and you finished that while managing another hairdresser salon.
Yes.
Then what happened?
So it was all like kind of mixed into one. I was doing well managing this hair salon. I was studying my certificate 4 in fitness after hours after I was...
So that's an extension study of what you first...
No, a certificate 4 is the study I was doing for fitness.
Oh, so you didn't finish...
I did.
So hold on. You finished it at the...
Whilst I was managing the hair salon.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I was managing the hair salon plus studying.
Yeah.
But I didn't leave the hair salon until I had my certificate 4 in fitness.
Right.
Yeah.
So you finished that?
Yes.
And how long did that take? 2 years, you said?
It can take a year full time.
Yeah. So 2 years for you.
So yeah, because I was doing it part time.
Night time. So there's a lot of dedication.
It was.
You're a very dedicated person to your aspirations.
Yeah. And I think because I was so eager to learn about it, I had a personal drive for my health and fitness. I was always in the gym working on myself. Again, that came from the low levels of self-esteem I had through high school. So when I left high school to come to college, I had this new town. I didn't know anyone apart from my boyfriend at the time. And I would just be at work or in the gym. That was my life. So I didn't have much else. And I loved that. I loved how focused I was on just those two things.
It does feel good building yourself.
Yeah, I didn't care about going out. I was not even 18 yet.
Well, you did a lot of that when you were younger.
Exactly. I did that so young that I didn't care for going out drinking.
You get over that at some point.
Yeah, I feel like everyone matures
well, not
out
everyone
of it
does.
Yeah, most people mature out of it, whereas because I started so young, I feel like I matured out of it earlier.
Yeah. So in hindsight, people around you are seeing if that was any disruption to them, maybe parents or teachers. Yeah, because I would,
exactly.
Now they'd be like, oh, well, it was kind of good that she got rid of that early.
Yeah. Well,
done and dusted.
I was 18, I was working full-time and studying full-time, whereas any friends at 18 were, let's go out to the clubs.
Yeah.
And
it was a bit of a mix.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people weren't. They were either like they were, they weren't doing what you were doing. They were either a bit of a mix, but most people around me were just living the party.
Exactly. And because I wasn't interested in that, I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't connect with too many people. I had a few friends. They were actually my first group of friends I made in Canberra, and they didn't do any of that because they were more church focused. So I loved them. I wasn't religious myself, but I loved that they had the similar values of not wasting their weekends, going out, partying, not remembering the weekend, making mistakes, like bad mistakes when you are on drugs and alcohol. And I loved being around those people because it means I didn't feel bad for not going out doing those things that a normal 18-year-old would do.
Yeah.
So I could really focus on going to the gym, focusing on my studies, focusing on my work.
And that essentially has led you to, from there, you were like, okay, I'm committed to this. And where was the moment where you were like, I'm going to do
fitness on top of it?
Well, hold on. Where's the start of the fitness and the start of your hairdressing?
Oh,
So which one was first?
It was, it's so hard to explain. They kind of.
Simultaneously.
Yeah. So down the South Coast, do you know how you have sports studies in school?
What, like PE?
Yeah.
Physical
PE.
education?
So down the South Coast, PE, you had electives. You could choose your elective, and my elective was gym. So for PE, I would walk down to my local gym. I will add, I was the only girl that did this. All the others were boys, and I'd be in there in the weight room with my light weights. Had no idea what I was doing, but I loved it. But I did feel there was times where I felt self-conscious because I was the only girl, and that's because, again, the whole bullying and stuff at school. You know, I felt very awkward being the only girl. The guys would pick on me for that reason. All these little things. But I started like...
Where are these bullies now?
Yeah.
Look at her now.
Yeah, well, it's just like I moved into fitness from a joy point of view as well. I enjoyed it. I'm not the type to... I played basketball as well, but I'm not the type to... I don't know, go swimming or something, like in terms of laps in a pool. I just really enjoyed being in the gym.
Being active.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. And that's how I started in terms of the gym. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I enjoyed it. So I would do that once a week at PE during school. So like, because that was part of my curriculum, I chose art, PE, and English on top of my hairdressing studies.
Right.
So it all kind of like worked in together. And then coming to Canberra for year 11 and 12 to do college, my boyfriend at the time was heavily into the gym, and he took me to the gym and he taught me a little bit. And then when I got more confident with my weights training and how it made me feel, and I was feeling stronger, more energetic, more confident within myself, it just like blew into flames, and I just wanted to do it every single day. It was like my release. It was my way to escape from crappy things in life. It was my way to...
It's a healthy one.
Yeah, a very healthy one. So whilst I was doing my hairdressing studies, I also had this other passion of health and fitness. I loved being in the gym. I was there every day after work. So I was working a full day, studying, and then going and doing gym.
So
personal benefits.
Yeah, so you had these two things, and then, but which business came exactly first? Do you know, or you don't know?
Yeah, the fitness.
So the fitness was first.
Yeah.
So you're still managing at that head.
Yes.
And then you did fitness on the side.
Yeah.
Did you? How did let's talk about how you started that first business. Like, what was your mindset, and how did you do it?
So because I had the mindset of opening my own hair salon originally, I knew I wanted to be in business. In some way or form. I was too scared at that time to go off and run my own hair salon. It was a big thing. I had to go open my own space. I had to put all this money that I didn't have down on everything, fitting out a hair salon and stuff.
So it wasn't really fully feasible?
Absolutely not. I was managing the hair salon, 9 to 6. And then I was like, I want everyone else to feel what I'm feeling in terms of my health and fitness, because I was already starting to get compliments from colleagues, friends. I was looking good. I was feeling good. I was energetic. I was typically not what most 18-year-olds are like, you know what I mean? Most 18-year-olds are hungover on the weekends and just getting through the day and living off mothers and energy drinks and stuff like that. Whereas I just was so in the zone. I was bringing my lunch to work every day, like meal prepped lunches, and people were noticing and people were asking me questions. And I didn't have no education to go off in terms of giving people advice, because obviously I wasn't qualified just yet. Like, I was learning it, but I didn't have the qualifications to say, let me do up a training program or anything just yet. But people were noticing what I was doing with myself. And that's what made me go and study fitness. I was like, I can help people. but I have to have the qualifications behind me to be able to do that properly.
So you saw the opportunity.
I saw an opportunity in doing something that I equally loved, and I didn't think it would be work. And to this day, I've never found, like, there'll be days when you wake up and like, shit, it's 5 a.m. I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
But that soon subsides, and I've never found my fitness business to be work. I just have so much passion for it. And that's why I think it moved into business so quickly and so smoothly, is because
it was a no-brainer?
No-brainer. The amount of passion I just poured into it, people really resonated with it and noticed it. So I was managing the hair salon, I was doing my certs, and as soon as I finished my qualifications, so my Cert 4 in fitness, I started my very first outdoor boot camp. Obviously no overheads. I could just find a park. I remember I had a backpack on my shoulder with a few skipping ropes and like 2 kilo dumbbells, and I had about 8 clients, and they were virtually all my friends. And I did it cheap. Like, I'm talking, I think I did a few months of training for like $80 per head. So I didn't make any money.
Yeah. It was a start.
Yeah, that's
the hardest thing to do. Anything is start.
Exactly. I just went with it. And again, I feel like because I had so much passion for it, it wasn't a money grab. It was not, I'm going to build this insane
you got to
business. It was like, I'm so passionate about sharing what I'm doing for myself.
Yeah.
That I just, obviously I was like, oh, well, obviously charge a little bit. It is my time, and I am going out early in the mornings before work. But I just saw it as, these people are coming to me for help and advice, and I really want to give it to them.
And you can sacrifice not making as much money when you start if you're passionate for it.
Exactly. And I didn't think about it as money at that time.
Because you were still working at the...
Yes, I had a steady income from managing a hair salon. So that's why there was no risk in that aspect. It was more so my time. If I hated it, what's the worst that can happen? I stopped doing it. I go back to my day job.
So how many years, is this the same business the whole time, or is this one fitness business you've had the whole time? So how many years has this been running for?
I'm going to say 2013. It was.
So about 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's over 5 years. So it's well established.
Yes.
And looking back at that point of starting to now, are you, along the way, was it mostly what you thought it would be, or is there lots of different things that were like twists and turns?
Oh yeah, it was like, still to this day there's twists and turns. There'll never not be twists and turns. I'm just know how to navigate them better now.
Are you in a position that you wanted to be at that point at where you are now for 10 years time?
Yeah.
So further?
I wouldn't say further. I think I'm right on where I should be for now. I have so much more to do.
No, but you're not disappointed where you are now compared to where you thought you would be?
I'm stoked at where the fact that I now own a hair salon and a gym next door to each other. I have established clients. I have...
Hold on, say that again.
I have a hair salon and a gym next door to each other.
Okay, lots of people would be looking at this, watching this and going, what?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. And I mean... Or before, we don't have to put it on if you don't want to, before what age? So what next decade age are you coming up to?
Yes, I'll be turning 30 next year.
All before 30.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very well done. And I think the main thing that people are going to take from this podcast and what we're trying to do here at Be a Guru Australia is we're really trying to tell people that they can do things. And that things are possible, even from someone who is a rebel at school all the way up to owning 2 shops right next to each other. Yeah. And not to mention a brand, a clothing brand.
Which is very exciting.
I want to dive pretty deep into for the next sort of 15 minutes or so with your fitness journey.
For sure.
Right? So going from that start, expanding into different aspects, because the fitness goes hand in hand with a lot of different industries, right?
It does.
It goes all the way up to choreographed fighting. It goes like there's so many personal trainers in all different industries. Rehabilitation it's one of the most vast industries, right?
Yeah.
And that's only been in the last 10 years has grown to that massive cross between industries. Where did you as you grow your businesses, what do you how do you step up and forward and stuff like that? Do you outsource or do you?
I outsource now, but back when I was growing, it was all me. I worked a lot of hours.
There's a thing that I said on the one with my brother, the IT one, that there's basically not destined for every business, but it's mostly business and relationships, which a business essentially is a relationship.
Yeah.
It's not a living person, but it definitely grows and has, if you water it and show it love.
My business was my first babies. Like I have a human baby growing now, but my businesses are still my babies, and I'm actually like, it's crazy how much you have to nurture them for them to flourish. Like you said, like a plant.
If you talk to it nasty and neglect it, it's going to disappear.
Just like if you were to talk nasty to yourself, how it's going to affect your mental health. Like, absolutely.
I think, so the thing is, what it is it's 3, 5 and 7. Oh, sorry, 2, 5 and 7, I believe. So after and this is done through lots of different studies, and it's mainly business, but you can apply it to relationships as well, especially romantic relationships. So even though they're two completely separate things, but the analogy of the whole aspect of it is most businesses don't make it over 2 years. It's just fact. 85% of businesses do not make it over 2 years because you have to take risk, take out time from your normal everyday and money, right? Hardest things to do. Because you've got to either, if you can't, a lot of people have got steady jobs they've got to keep to pay their bills, and then where do you get the extra money from? You're starting the business to get the extra money out. It doesn't really work in a lot of aspects. You have to have a lot of drive and do a lot of things for free, sacrifice a lot of time to get there. Then luckily this day and age, we've got advertisement pretty much free on Facebook and stuff, which is great, where they didn't have it before. But there's that 2 year thing. Then there's the 2, 5 and 7. So 5 is maturity stage where the only way to grow the business at that point, because if you do not grow a business, it will stay stagnant. You'll get bored with it. It will die. Yes. You have to grow it constantly forever. Yeah. It's a constant moving machine. So 5 years, the only way that you can go up and beyond is either outsource, capital, venture capital, so extra money, or outsourcing / employees. Yeah. And that's where a lot of businesses close up as well, because they can't do that, or they do it and it fails.
Yes.
Then 7 is true maturity, which is total turning it into a much, much bigger thing, which is either getting a shop front or a space, or expanding the space that you're in to another thing, which is a much, much larger, which means more overheads, stuff like that, or turning it public, which is for businesses that are, already pretty big and they're growing so rapidly, but then they turn into tens of millions instead of hundreds of thousands, or invest in other aspects like creating a brand and stuff like that. So does that sound like those points there, you can see certain points that happened? 2, 5 and 7? Yeah. Because now you're over 7. I'm interested to hear what these are at those points.
Yeah, for sure. Like the 2 year mark.
Yeah. It's the hardest. Oh, it's the most
grueling.
Yeah, grueling.
The amount of hours I put in for no money.
But also you feel it. You feel the edge of like, I can't do this, or like people are like really doubting me.
That's where you kind of tug with yourself in terms of, do I keep going?
Yes.
Is it worth to keep going? Do I quit? Do I just go back to my comfortable state of managing a hair salon?
Yeah, you have that choice,
where I have a steady income.
Because you have to leave.
Eventually you have to leave your day job to commit to your baby.
Otherwise,
your full-time thing.
It's not worth the amount of side effort that you're doing for the not an amount of money. So you have to take, usually, not all the time, take the cut of, and I look at it like, to be honest, to be really brutally honest, like you have to take 50% cut of your earnings. So you have to make up, not the full 50%, but you have to make up so you just get by all of a sudden, where you had this comfort and stuff and just go, and you're like, a lot of people do it and then they fail and then they go back to another job.
Yes. Yeah, so it is scary for sure.
What was your 2 year thing? What was to make or break you beyond that point?
I think I was always coming from a very smart aspect of, I always have a backup. So that's why I was still working in the hair salon with a steady income whilst building up this boot camp I was running. I made sure I didn't jump into it too soon. I didn't leave my day job. And I did that for, I would say, I reckon 2 years. That's how long I was managing the hair salon. And I'm telling you, those 2 years, the hours I worked, so as I said, I was managing a salon, which was far more than a 38-hour week. Like you're running a business for someone else. Then I was trying to build my own business on the side. I was also, and before we dive more into my own personal fitness journey, I was also preparing for fitness competitions myself.
Wow.
So it was hours, early mornings, like I would be up at, 4:30 to get ready for my morning boot camp, my outdoor morning boot camp that I ran in Canberra during winter. I'd go to my day job, manage that until sometimes I'd be there to 9 and then I would either go to the gym for myself or I would be getting prepared for my morning boot camps again the next day. And
you definitely have the work ethic to do this.